This is Crash Course in Captioning, Tools for Making Your Videos More Accessible, and it is being presented today by Christy Allen. Christy provides strategic leadership for the acquisition and description of new library materials, digital collections, scholarly communication initiatives, as well as the library's website and systems. She's a member of the university's accessibility committee and is helping to pilot a program that trains library student workers to remediate digital content for accessibility. So without any further ado, welcome. I will stop sharing and floor is yours.
All right, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm trying to work on two different monitors here. All right, so my presentation, Crash Course in Captioning, just a little about Furman University Libraries. We have been undergoing some different initiatives lately to make our content on our website more accessible. And this has been going on for a few years. And one of the things that I've learned is there's many different ways to conduct captioning, and I wanted to highlight three different avenues that you can go about captioning videos. There we go. So the focus of this presentation is really going to be on three different methods. This is not to say that these are the only methods of captioning, but these are the three that we found sort of warranted the most thought as we were going through and thinking about captioning. So one method is using YouTube's built-in subtitles to create captions. And the benefits of that is that it's fairly easy to use. It is somewhat to fairly accurate depending on the audio quality of the video. It comes at no cost, and there is minimal to moderate time investment in going through and making sure the captions are accurate. And again, the amount of time you spend on the captions depends on the quality of the audio that you're dealing with. Another option is outsourcing. So basically paying someone else to do the captioning. And obviously this is very easy to do. You send your video, they send back captions, and it is fairly accurate. However, there is also a significant cost tied up in that. And it is not, unfortunately, as we discovered, a one and done type of thing. You know, once you get back the caption, you still have to spend some time going over the captions and making sure they are accurate, because the people that are doing the captioning of your content do not know your institution and your local words and your local names as well as you do. And so there will be misspellings and typos that you're going to have to go back and fix. And then the third option is to actually create transcripts of the videos themselves and then convert those into captioning. Creating transcripts does require some training and some knowledge on how best to do that. They will be the most accurate of the options because they're done locally and you know the names and the abbreviations and the acronyms better than anyone else would. They don't come at a cost in that you have to cut a check, but they do come with a significant time cost, either student time or employee time. So there is unfortunately no best perfect option for captioning, but I did want to go quickly over these three options to kind of give you a sense of what you might expect with these. So the YouTube subtitles. YouTube also calls this auto-captioning, and they use the terms interchangeably in their documentation, but it looks like the most current correct term is subtitles. So to kind of go through this, you would need a video that you would then upload into your YouTube account. And it's important to list it either as public or unlisted. I have found that if I've set a video to private, that it will not run the auto caption. That may have changed recently, but in my experience, that is what has happened. You fill out a few fields in the YouTube studio. You want to make sure you identify what language that the video is in, so that when the YouTube algorithm runs the auto captioning, it knows what language it's looking for. And then the third step is the most fiddly. You have to wait for the automatic subtitles to run. And they are not automatic. Well, I'm sorry, they're not immediate. That's what I meant to say. They are automatic. I have waited as little as 3 hours and as long as a week for the automatic subtitles to run. I don't know why they run sometimes or what the schedule is. I don't know if it's based on the length of the video or the audio quality, but you're just going to have to be patient and wait. So if you want captions immediately right away, doing this workflow may not be the best choice. Once the automatic subtitles are run, you can then edit them to fix the errors. So let me show you what that looks like. So here is YouTube Studio. And when you're in YouTube Studio, you select the video that you want to do your subtitles on, and then you click the little subtitles button down here. And you'll come to this place that you see on the screenshot, which will tell you what subtitles or captions are available to you. Now, when the automatic subtitles run, you will have something that says subtitles automatic, which is what my little red arrow is pointing to indicate that these will run automatically using a YouTube voice recognition algorithm. So there's nobody on the back end captioning these things. It's all part of an automated system. You cannot edit directly these automatic captions. You just can't. But what you can do is you can click that blue link next to the red circle that I have that says duplicate and edit. So basically you're making a copy of the automatic subtitles and then you can edit those. And when you duplicate it, it creates a second copy of it. And it says that that copy was created by the creator, so the person who uploaded the video. And then you can click edit and edit the existing subtitles. And when you click that edit button, it brings you to this edit screen. And you might be overwhelmed for a minute, but it's actually pretty intuitive what it's doing. So on the right, you see the video itself. And you've got the play button and the rewind and the fast forward, like all the things you would normally see with a YouTube embedded video player. On the left side, you have what the captions are. So you see that it has the actual typed text of the captions. And then sort of in the middle, right next to the typed captions, but on the other side of the video, you have the timings. And so it will say from the beginning of the video to 4.21 seconds into the video, these are the words that are being said. It's saying the Furman University Library's Digital Collection Center. And so in this editing interface, you can edit the words of the captions themselves. So you can correct punctuation and the spellings and typos, but you can also edit the timings of the video. So let's just say that as you're watching the video, maybe the captions are displaying words that you haven't heard yet. That means the timing is off. So you can adjust the timings by manually typing in the seconds, or down here at the bottom of the window, it has the words on a sort of timeline, and you can just click and drag to adjust the timings, and it will adjust the timings as appropriate. So it's really pretty simple. You listen to the video, you correct the typos, you can adjust the timings with this little slider. And then when you're done, you can either save it as a draft, meaning you're still working on it, or you can go ahead and hit publish, and the captions become online immediately. So that is the first method of doing captions. You have YouTube run the auto create, and then you go in and you fix it. The second option is outsourcing. So there's many different closed captions vendors out there. I've put some logos for a few of them on the slide. The two that you may have heard of are 3Play Media and Rev.com. And 3Play Media has a very high standard of accuracy for coming back to their caption. Here at Furman, we actually use Rev.com simply because that is what our Office of Accessibility Resources uses. So here in the library, we just went ahead and used them as well because it sort of sets that consistency standard. So the workflow for outsourcing is pretty simple. You send the vendor the video, you pay them, You wait until they finish captioning, and then when they send you back the file that they've captioned, you can go in and review and correct errors. And again, it would be so easy to say, well, we paid them to caption it, let's just put the captions online. But those captions aren't always completely accurate. They will be full of typos. If there's a lot of jargon or a lot of specific information that is local that the captioner may not recognize or know what it is. So this is Rev.com's backend, and I wanted to kind of show you their captioning editing interface just to contrast it a little bit with YouTube. I'm certain that 3Play Media has a similar backend, and other captioning services probably have something similar to this. You log into the website with your account. In this case, for Rev.com, I went to order history, and it lists all of the videos that they have captioned and allows me to edit or preview or download the captioned files. So I just wanted to point out, if you're looking at the total that we paid for this, you might get a bit of sticker shock. We sent in almost 19 hours of oral history files, which is why this is so expensive. And we actually ended up paying for the captioning of these with a special one-time targeted fundraising effort. We have our university has a fundraising day, which many of your universities might have too. And when the library did fundraising for that day, we said we designated all the money we made for DEI initiatives, and a portion of that went toward making our videos accessible. So we actually had donor money that we used to pay for this. Rev.com charges $1.25 per minute. And so when you have almost 19 hours of video, it adds up pretty fast. Anyway, just wanted to point that out because it is a significant cost investment. So to get to the captions that they have created, you would hit the edit button, and then it brings you to an interface that is not, that has many of the same functionalities as the YouTube editor. It's just everything sort of in a different place. You know, at the top, we have the video that you can play and pause. Right underneath of that, we have that timeline tool where, again, we can adjust timings. And then underneath of that, we have the written captions and then the timings next to it. So again, you can fix and remediate and update, you know, the content of the captions, but also the timings of themselves. And I did want to use this as a specific example because you see in the text of the captions itself, it uses names, proper names that are indigenous terms in Latin America. And so whoever created this caption clearly did their homework. It would have been very easy for them just to type in what they heard, but they clearly went out to Google and did some searching and found the correct spellings for these names. So, you know, it's not to say that paying for captioning is going to be a higher quality than what you get at YouTube for sure. But you may still experience some typos here and there. So it could not hurt to play the video, read the captions, and go through and correct them. So that is just an example of what an outsourced workflow might look like. And then finally, the third workflow is the manual transcription workflow. So it's just what it sounds like. You listen to a video, you type what you hear, and then you take the video and you, again, just trying to make it simple, you upload it into YouTube, and then YouTube has the ability to take a written text document and attach it, and then YouTube will assign the timings for it. So what that would look like is, here is an example of a transcript that someone has typed up from an oral history from 2008. And this format actually follows YouTube's preferred format for uploading transcripts. As you can see, it's got the names of the two people that are talking. Their names appear in capital letters, and every time it switches between one person and another, it's got sort of the greater than symbols, two of them before it. There are no timings. It doesn't say from 0 seconds to 5 seconds. It just has the words. And then you take this transcript and you save it as a text file. And then you go into YouTube and you create a new subtitle from that screen that I showed you before. And then in that, you have the ability to upload a file. So you click upload a file and you select a file that has no timing. And you upload that text file with the transcript and you hit continue. And then what YouTube does is it looks at all the words in that file and it links it to the correct timings in the video. As it says here, processing may take a while. It depends on the length of the video and the length of the transcript. So it may take several hours for this to run. And once it does run, again, you can go back through and check it and make sure that it correctly mapped the timings. And you can always make tweaks or edits if you need to. So then the last part of it is, well, this is all great, Christy, but we don't keep our videos in YouTube. We keep them in Vimeo. So like, this is completely a pointless presentation for me. So officially, we keep the majority of our research content in Vimeo. We only use YouTube for things like quick instructional videos or stuff that's not scholarly in nature, things like that. And so, but I use YouTube to do these tricks. And then what I do is I download the captions out of YouTube and then I upload them into Vimeo. So you can use that same process if you have some other hosted video platform, whether it's Vimeo or something else. And to do that, once you get your captions the way that you want them in YouTube, you would come back to YouTube Studio, you would hit that subtitles button. And then if you kind of hover over the subtitle that you want, these three dots will magically appear. They don't appear there if you're just looking. You have to hover over the video. Once those three dots appear and you click on them, you can then hit download and it will give you three different options to download your captions in. SBV is the format that YouTube prefers. So if you, for example, want to take this video and switch it to a different YouTube channel for some reason, you can download the .SBV. But the standard in caption file formats is the .SRT. So that is the file you will want to download. And then you can turn around and upload that captioning file into Vimeo or into some other video platform. So that is what I have. And just to show you that you can indeed do that, here is a Vimeo video that has captions that I created through YouTube and then uploaded into Vimeo. So it does work. I just had a couple of little resources off here to the side, and my presentation also has lots of links that show you how to do all the things I kind of talked about using whenever possible the actual websites like YouTube Help and Rev.com Help. And I think I'll be sharing slides of this after the conference so that they should be accessible to those who want to follow up. But that is what I had for right now, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Christy. And you're correct, we will be sharing your slide deck. So if anyone wants to look further into some of those resources that you shared, they'll be able to do that. They'll be uploaded to sunyla.org. So all the slide decks as well as the recordings will be there, and also all registrants will be emailed as well when those are ready. But thanks again for your presentation. I know I learned a lot, and I do see some questions in the Q&A, so we'll get to those. All right, the first question is YouTube subtitles, pluses and minuses of public versus unlisted.
Okay, so if you plan to have this video, like if YouTube is where this video will live, and that is your plan for it to live there, and you want to get people to come to this video and watch it through YouTube, then I would definitely set it as public. What unlisted means is that it is only accessible to people who have that link. And so usually I will use unlisted because YouTube is not my final destination for the video. I want my video to live in Vimeo, but I don't want people to find it on YouTube because it's not going to live there forever. I'm just putting it there to run the auto captions, to clean up the captioning, and then export it, and then I'll delete it when I'm done. And so that's usually why I use unlisted, so that people aren't finding it and then go back the next day and the video is mysteriously gone.
Thank you. That's a very cool little hack you have there. I like that. Our next question is, are you able to export the subtitles in YouTube to a Google Doc?
Yeah, so once you have it as an SRT file, you can then copy and paste that into a Google Doc, or you can copy and paste it into Notepad++, or any other venue. I know that there are methods of like stripping out timings. So for example, if you have captioning, but you want to create a transcript, I feel like I saw some instructions today as I was poking around on how to do that. I don't know how to do that because we've not had that situation here, but try Googling around and seeing if you could find that, if that's something that you're interested in doing.
Okay, next question. Does YouTube still allow for community submitted captions for other language support?
I saw something about that today in the documentation, but I don't know how current that documentation was. I do know that it supports other languages if you own the video. So let's see if I can pull this over and it'll work here. I don't know if y'all can see my YouTube channel here or not, but if I close this out, so you can add, for example, here it's showing that it's, as you know, you can add a Spanish transcript. So you can add different languages and subtitles based on what the language is. But I don't know if that's something that community members can then contribute. So if someone here saw this video and said, oh, I would love to translate this into Spanish, I don't know if they can if they don't own the video. That's something I would have to look up.
Yeah, I do see in the chat, someone mentioned that for the community captions question, I'm pretty sure they no longer do that. So okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Another question, is there similar captioning option support for descriptive audio?
I would love to know that myself. So we have one video that I would like to do the descriptive audio on, because there is literally no spoken words in the entire video. It's just music, but then all the words appear on the screen. So obviously someone who has a vision disability or is blind can't actually get anything out of the content of the video except this music. And so what I'd like to do is figure out how to do audio description. So that's kind of the next step for us. We started with the captioning because there was just so many videos that needed it, and it was such a dire need. And the audio description piece is only applies to a very small group of our videos. Something that was mentioned in my introduction was that we're working with students to pilot a program for making documents more accessible. And actually we have our first student here today, just getting their first day of training. But one thing that we'd like to sit down and work through with them is audio descriptions, and if that's something that students can be trained to do. So unfortunately, I don't know. And if anyone here knows, I'd love to hear the answer to that too.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and if anyone has anything to add in the chat that might know more, feel free. Next question, are there any copyright issues with these files that you have to address before putting them up on YouTube?
So this is a great question. The majority of the content that lives natively in YouTube for us are instructional type videos, like this is how to search the library's catalog, and this is how to find a database in ScienceDirect, or whatever. I'm not an average librarian, sorry. But the content that lives in Vimeo is more scholarly, and so we have a lot of oral histories in there. We have a lot of speaker presentations in there, and for that content, we require the speakers to sign a form that basically says, I acknowledge that this is going up online, and I give my approval to do that. And so we make sure that our copyright is covered. One of the many hats I wear is I'm also a member of our copyright support group here in the library. And so we're very aware of copyright, and we're very careful not to put anything up online that could violate it.
All right. Oh, were you going to say something else?
No, I wasn't. Sorry, I had the Q&A open. And
Oh, I see. Okay. Can YouTube do automatic translations, for example, an English video into Spanish, and then you can edit the Spanish?
I don't believe so, no. I think that all the translations have to be handled by you. I don't think that YouTube does any of the translations. I could be wrong, but not that I've seen.
Next question. Have you other software like Screencast-O-Matic for closed captioning?
We do not. I have tried to use Camtasia for closed captioning because we use Camtasia to create a lot of our videos in-house, and that is absolutely disastrous. It is the worst closed captioning I've ever seen. And when we have online meetings, we use the transcription function in Zoom, for example, which is actually pretty decent. I was surprised at how accurate that is, but we do not have separate closed captioning software that we use.
All right, thank you. Someone did mention in the chat about the translation that someone could always Google and paste the automatic text into Google Translate. So that is an option. Our next question is it possible to download the finished file from YouTube and put it into a depository?
I don't see why not. As long as you get that .srt file, that is a file format that is used by most of the video platforms. So.
And any ideas on getting a podcast transcript? I've been told if you upload a WAV file to YouTube, you can do this, but you have to upload the file as a video.
Yes, that is true. And we've actually done that before. So we have some of the oral histories that we have in our collection are audio only. And what I do is I dump the audio into Camtasia, and then I just create like a title screen that has the name of the oral history, and then save it as an MP4. And so the only thing anybody will see when they play this video is this title screen that says oral history of, John Plyler Jr., but then they're hearing the audio. So that was kind of the hack I did to get around that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you. I'm not seeing any additional questions in the Q&A, but we still have a few minutes. So if anyone still wants to ask something, please feel free to drop it in there. Again, thank you very much for your presentation. It's really good, helpful, concrete things that people can do. Oh, here's a question. Can you download the Zoom captions into a text file?
Now that I don't know. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. I know that that you can download the chat transcripts from Zoom, but I don't know that you can download the transcripts. I'm sorry, the captions. And I feel like Zoom also has the ability where you can do live closed captioning. So if you know that you have someone in your audience who requires accurate closed captioning, rather than relying on the auto closed captioning in Zoom, you can actually have someone taking notes live and actually typing them out. I know that that's an option too.
Thank you. And it is not lost on the conference committee that we do not have the Zoom's live captions happening at the moment, but that is something we hope to remedy for next year's conference. Any other questions for Christy? Oh, I see one. How does your team handle quality control when using multiple people to caption videos? What is your workflow?
So right now it's kind of a workflow of one. A lot of the captioning goes through me just because I'm the person that does it the most and I have the most experience with it. In the past, what we've done is we've hired students to do some manual transcription, and then I've done the quality control on it. But again, we're in the process of hiring students who will do some of that review work. So we're hoping to have students look at particularly the stuff that we outsourced, fix anything, and then we'll probably go do one more pass and look over what they've done just to make sure that they really understand and that it's accurate as can be. But in terms of going through the YouTube captioning and correcting that, that has mainly fallen to me. So it's kind of a workflow of one at this point, but we're hoping to scale up and involve others once we really know what we're doing and what that will look like in terms of handing off from one person to another.
Okay, I think that's the last of our questions. And again, thank you one more time for your presentation. It was really great. I'm going to go back to sharing my screen now. So that is it for today for our conference for this year's 2022 SUNYLA Midwinter Online Conference. I would just like to one more time thank our conference team. I think I can speak for us all in that we're really passionate about putting this conference together every year and keeping it free for everyone. And to see so many people attend and present, it's really rewarding, and it's just really great to be a part of. So thank you all for being a part of this as well. So shout out to Jennifer DeVito at Stony Brook University, Bill Jones, SUNY Geneseo, Carrie Martin, SUNY Purchase, and Jessica McGivney at SUNY Farmingdale. And finally, one last plug, save the date, our SUNYLA Annual Conference 2022. It's a 3-day conference this year, back to being in person from June 8th to 10th. And it's going to be hosted by Farmingdale State College. I know their committee is still accepting proposals. So if you've got an idea, please send it in. You can do that at sunyla.org. Once again, we will be sharing the recordings and slide decks and any questions that didn't have enough time to be answered today from presenters. So keep your eyes on your inbox. We also always love getting feedback. So we'll be sending out feedback forms. We love hearing about your ideas for possible future conferences, anything that we can make better. We're always trying to grow. So keep your eyes open for that as well. So thanks again, everyone, for attending this SUNYLA Midwinter Online Conference, and we hope to see you in 2023.